The Christ Pantocrator icon at St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai. In 544 AD, a cloth bearing an image of Jesus was discovered hidden above a gate in Edessa's city walls. 6 years later, an icon was produced at St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai. There are startling similarities between the icon and the image we see on the Shroud of Turin. There are, perhaps, too many similarities for it to be a mere coincidence. The general placement of facial features including eyes, nose and mouth. In fact, when a transparency of the shroud face is superimposed over the icon, there are no significant variations. The hair on the left side, at your right, falls on the shoulder and swoops outward. The hair on the other side is shorter. The eyes are very large. The nose is particularly thin and long. The face is gaunt. There is a gap in the beard below a concentration of facial hair that is just below the lower lip. The neck is particularly long. It is particularly interesting to note that starting about this time a dramatic change took place in the way Jesus was portrayed on coins, icons, frescoes and mosaics. Before this time, Jesus was usually portrayed in storybook settings such as a young shepherd, or modeled after the Greek Apollo. After the discovery of the Edessa cloth, images of Jesus were suddenly forefrontal facial images. The oldest known icon of Christ Pantocrator, encaustic on panel, St. Catherine's Monastery. The two different facial expressions on either side may emphasize Christ's two natures as fully God and fully human. The Christ Pantocrator of St. Catherine's Monastery at Sinai is one of the oldest Byzantine religious icons, dating from the 6th century AD. It is the earliest known version of the Pantocrator style that still survives today, and is regarded by historians and scholars to be one of the most important and recognizable works in the study of Byzantine art as well as Eastern Orthodox Christianity. For a time the icon was thought to have been dated from the 13th century, since it had been almost completely painted over at that time, but it was concluded in 1962 that it is in fact from the mid-6th century, although the exact date of production is still unknown. When St. Catherine's Monastery was founded by the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I, late in his reign, between 548 and 565, it enjoyed imperial patronage and donations from Justinian and his court, with the Christ Pantocrator icon having been one of the many possible imperial gifts. Because of this, it is generally believed to have been produced in the Byzantine capital of Constantinople. Many agree that the icon represents the dual nature of Christ, illustrating traits of both man and God, perhaps influenced by the aftermath of the ecumenical councils of the previous century at Ephesus and Chalcedon. Christ's features on his left side, to the viewer's right, are supposed to represent the qualities of his human nature, while his right side, to the viewer's left, represents his divinity. His right hand is shown opening outward, signifying his gift of blessing, while the left hand and arm is clutching a thick gospel book. Some scholars have suggested the icon at Sinai could have been a possible representation of the Kamaliana icon of Christ, or of the famous icon of Christ to the Chaki Gate, an image which was destroyed twice during the first and second waves of Byzantine iconoclasm, first in 726, and again in 814, and thus its connection with the Christ Pantocrator is difficult to confirm. With a height of 84 centimeters, width of 45.5 centimeters, and a thickness of 1.2 centimeters, the icon was originally taller and wider before its top and sides were cut. Otherwise there is only one spot with major damage, a large portion of Christ's hair on his left side, including his left ear and shoulder. The original encaustic surface has continually been preserved in excellent condition overall. As with many of the early icons from Sinai, the Christ Pantocrator was created by using this technique, known as encaustic, a medium using hot wax paint, that would rarely continue to be utilized in the Byzantine world after the iconoclastic controversies of the 8th and 9th centuries. In fact, the monastery at Sinai is the only place in the world where a substantial number of these encaustic icons, particularly those dating from as early as the 6th century, have been preserved. During the period of Byzantine iconoclasm, the production of Orthodox icons continued at Sinai, whereas they were being destroyed in Constantinople. The Muslim Arabs quickly took control of the entire Fertile Crescent south of the Turkish mountains, including Egypt and Sinai, cutting the monastery's ties with Constantinople in the year 640. Therefore, by the time the era of iconoclasm had been initiated by Emperor Leo III in 726, the monastery of St. Catherine had already been protected under Muslim rule for nearly a century, and was able to survive the destruction of iconoclasm. Furthermore, the location of the monastery in the rocky desert of Sinai, far away from any major trade or military route, kept the contents within St. Catherine's safe from raiders as well as conquering armies. Even today the monastery houses more than 2,000 icons, dating from the 6th century to modern times.